everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady. Today I am going to tackle this property border. It's a complete disaster. It's got dried plants from the summer and one of my biggest weed infestations that I have ever experienced on this property. So stay tuned to see how I take this and transform it into a direct seeded border that will look beautiful this spring. So you may be wondering what some of these giant plants were that I was cutting down, and they were all summer plants like sunflowers and sorghum and okra, and of course this really giant one is the annual castor bean. These were self-sown, which is why they grow so large, and I have no doubt that they set 1 million seeds and they will self-sow again next season. All right, now that I have all the summer stuff cleared out, it's time for me to attack this massive weed infestation. And originally my plan was to come out and spray it with Roundup because that would be very effective, but I want to be a good example and show people there are alternatives to herbicides. So I am going to attack this the old-fashioned way, on my hands and knees, pulling it out. I do have a hoe that is somewhat effective, but to be honest, I think to make sure that I really get the whole root zone, it's just better to do this by ripping it out by hand. So one of the biggest weeds in this patch is this geranium, and you can see it has a taproot. It's relatively easy to pull out, and obviously last year I let this go to seed, which is why I have such a mass infestation. This Lamium or henbit is another really problematic weed, and this has a much bigger root system, so it's important to get this pulled out now while it's still small. This chickweed is one that just grows like a carpet, and it's difficult to get all the roots off of this. It's certainly a plant that I battle every year. Really vigorous cool season annual. Some people like to eat it, which is great. I don't. I think it's super bitter. But I definitely don't want it growing through this entire border. So vetch is really my arch nemesis in the winter season as a weed. And you can see it's a legume. It has these nodules and it actually does fix nitrogen. It's just so vigorous, and everywhere that a root breaks off, a new plant will form. So this is one that I'm gonna rip out by hand, but I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled. If more starts to come up, I'm gonna treat it with 2,4-D like I did out front to take care of this once and for all. In case you're wondering, this is extremely time consuming, but I'm doing a really thorough job, so I think that in the long run, this is the right decision. But you can see I've only gotten this tiny amount done, and I have the entire fence line to do. As you can see, I've made a lot of progress hand weeding on my hands and knees. This wasn't the easiest project that I've done in the garden lately, but I'm glad to get this accomplished. So I still have some more weeding to do. I'm going to top dress with soil cube, and I'm going to transplant 3 really cool new varieties of peaches into this border that already has a couple of different varieties of apples. The final step will be to sow some seeds. I'm planning on doing some double poppies in here and a cover crop of peas and oats, which is a complete cover crop. That will grow all winter. The peas fix nitrogen and the oats draw nutrients from deep into the ground back up to the surface. So stay tuned for my progress on this south-facing property border.